The MVP isn't just a trophy, it's a statement, a debate, a legacy-defining moment that crowns the face of basketball for a season. And in the 2010s, it meant more than ever. This was the era where the MVP race became a storyline of its own, where stats exploded, narratives clashed, and social media turned every voter into a target. From multiple-time winners to new rising stars to the first unanimous vote ever cast. This wasn't just about who played best, it was about who mattered most to the league, to the fans, to the culture. So today we're breaking it all down, season by season. Who won, who got robbed, and which MVP moments still echo a decade later. This is every NBA MVP of the 2010s explained. When the 2010 MVP conversation started, it didn't last long. LeBron was coming off an MVP season in 2009 and somehow leveled up. The Cavs won 61 games, which was the best in the league, and LeBron averaged 29.7 points, 8.6 assists, and 7.3 rebounds on 50% shooting. He could score like a guard, pass like a point forward, and rebound like a center, all while defending at an all-NBA level. He led the league in per, win shares, and box plus minus, and was top 5 in both offensive and defensive advanced metrics. The only question was, were voters getting tired of giving it to him again? Because there were other narratives in play. Kevin Durant was just 21 years old and already looked like a future MVP. He led the league in scoring with 30.1 points per game and carried a young Thunder squad to 50 wins, which crazy enough only got them the 8th seed in the West. He played all 82 games, was hyper-efficient, and looked like a killer in crunch time. His case was the classic best scorer, best story argument. Dwight Howard was anchoring the Orlando Magic on both ends. They finished 59-23 with the best net rating in the NBA, and Dwight won Defensive Player of the Year. He was averaging 18 and 13 with nearly 3 blocks a game and dominated the paint on both ends. But the knock was his limited offensive polish. Could a defense-first big really win MVP in a league driven by perimeter scoring? Kobe Bryant, as always, was in the conversation. The Lakers won 57 games. He hit clutch shot after clutch shot, and he had the respect of every voter. But Kobe missed 9 games and didn't have the statistical edge to outshine the field. His per and advanced numbers lagged behind LeBron and Durant. Still, he was the best player on the defending champs, and that always matters to voters. There were some fringe mentions too, Dwayne Wade, Steve Nash, Dirk Nowitzki, but none truly challenged the top tier. When ballots went in, it wasn't even close. LeBron got 116 out of 123 first-place votes. Kevin Durant got 4. Dwight Howard got 3. Kobe, 0. But here's the twist. Despite the statistical dominance, the media and fans were split. There were whispers the Cavs were racking up regular season wins, but did anyone truly believe they were built to win a title? And when LeBron laid a dud in Game 5 of the second round against Boston, a disengaged, confusing performance that some still debate to this day, the critics came out of the woodwork. Suddenly, people were saying Durant deserved it, or Kobe's team was better built, but by then, the ballots had been long locked in. LeBron took home his second straight MVP, becoming the youngest back-to-back winner in NBA history, but the celebration was short-lived, because just a few weeks later, he'd make the decision that would change everything. The 2011 MVP race didn't follow the usual script. There was no statistical juggernaut dominating every advanced metric. There was no overwhelming favorite, and there definitely wasn't a clear consensus on who deserved it, at least not at first. But what did exist was a story, a 22-year-old phenom playing for his hometown team, leading a team nobody expected to the top of the standings. Let's set the stage. After the decision, LeBron formed one of the most hyped big threes in NBA history. Everyone expected Miami to run the league. And while they eventually found their groove, it didn't happen overnight. The Heat started 9-8, dealt with chemistry issues, and were constantly under a microscope. Even as they finished 58-24, the expectations they carried made it hard for any one player, especially LeBron, to run away with the MVP narrative. Meanwhile, Kobe Bryant and the Lakers were the defending champs. But Kobe was now 32, playing fewer minutes, and the Lakers coasted for stretches of the season. They still won 57 games, but it wasn't the same Kobe-dominant season we'd seen in years past. So into that power vacuum walked Derrick Rose. At just 22 years old, he led the Bulls to a 62-20 record, which was the best in the NBA, while averaging 25 points, 7.7 assists, and 4.1 rebounds, and shouldering the offensive load on a team that didn't have another star. Joakim Noah and Carlos Boozer both missed chunks of the season. Luol Deng was solid, but this was Derrick Rose's team, and he made them elite. His scoring was explosive, his handles were electric, and his feel for the moment, unreal. Every clutch shot, every highlight drive through the lane, it all made one thing clear. This guy wasn't just good, he was box office. Now, did the advanced stats love Rose? Not really. He wasn't top 5 in PER, he wasn't first in win shares, his efficiency lagged behind some of the league's more polished scorers. But voters didn't care, because every night Rose passed the eye test, and more importantly, he passed the leadership test. LeBron's numbers were arguably better. He averaged 26.7 points, 7.5 rebounds, 7 assists on 51% shooting, and led the league in win shares and BPM. But the narrative worked against him. Many voters felt uncomfortable rewarding someone who had joined other stars instead of carrying a team on his own. Fair or not, the backlash to the decision was still fresh. Dwight Howard made a strong case this season too. He averaged 22.9 points, 14.1 rebounds, and 2.4 blocks, won Defensive Player of the Year, and carried Orlando to 52 wins. He finished second in both PER and win shares. But again, voters struggled to give the MVP to a defense-first big man, especially when the Magic weren't an elite team. There was also Dirk Nowitzki, who led the Mavericks to 57 wins and was as efficient as ever, but he missed 9 games and didn't dominate the narrative until the playoffs, when it was just too late. So when ballots were submitted, the media made their choice. Derrick Rose became the youngest MVP in NBA history at 22 years and 6 months old. He earned 113 of 121 first-place votes. Dwight Howard got 3, LeBron got 4, Kobe got 1. It wasn't just a win, it was a landslide. In hindsight, some analysts argue that Rose didn't statistically deserve it, that the voters overlooked LeBron or Dwight because of emotion, that the advanced numbers told a different story. But here's what the voters did see. A kid from Chicago carrying the weight of a franchise, playing fearless basketball, and turning a good team into a great one, without help from another superstar. And for one incredible season, that was more than enough. By the time the 2012 season rolled around, the MVP race felt like a referendum, not just on who the best player in basketball was, but on how we define greatness. Because LeBron James was entering year 2 with the Miami Heat, and the memory of what happened in year 1 was still raw. The 2011 finals collapse against Dallas, the disappearing act in crunch time, the not 1, not 2, not 3 speech that turned into memes and mockery. LeBron didn't just lose, he lost control of the narrative. So in 2012, everything changed. He stopped talking, he stopped dancing, and he started playing the most efficient, most complete basketball of his entire career. Now let's talk about how MVP voting worked that year. Same format, 121 media voters each filled out a 5-slot ballot, scored 10, 7, 5, 3, 1. One additional ballot came from fan voting via NBA.com, and again, MVP is strictly a regular season award. No playoffs, no hindsight. And in that regular season, LeBron James was flawless. He averaged 27.1 points, 7.9 rebounds, and 6.2 assists on an absurd 53.1% from the field. His true shooting percentage was 60.5%, and his PER of 30.7 was the highest in the league. He led the NBA in win shares, box plus minus, and value over replacement player. He guarded every position from 1 to 5. He was the anchor of a lockdown defense and the engine of a top 5 offense. And this time, he made it all look easy. The Heat went 46-20 in a lockout-shortened 66-game season, good for second in the East. That record wasn't overwhelming, but in context it didn't have to be. The eye test and the analytics were both screaming the same thing. This is the best player in the world. But he didn't win unopposed. Kevin Durant was right there. He averaged 28 points, 8 rebounds, and 3.5 assists, shot 49.6 from the field, and posted a true shooting percentage of 63%, the most efficient high-volume scoring season of his career to that point. The Thunder went 47-19, narrowly ahead of the Heat in win percentage, and Durant's consistency and poise made him LeBron's biggest threat on the ballot. Chris Paul, now leading the Clippers, sparked Lob City into life and helped turn LA's second team into a legitimate contender. He averaged 19.8 points, 9.1 assists, and 2.5 steals, and the Clippers jumped to a 40-26 record, a huge leap for a franchise that hadn't sniffed relevance in a decade. Kobe Bryant averaged over 27 a game and played a full season at 33 years old. The Lakers still won 41 games and made the playoffs, but they weren't elite, and Kobe's efficiency lagged behind the younger stars. Tony Parker also got love from voters that year, leading the 50-16 Spurs in scoring and assists while orchestrating one of the best offenses in basketball. But his numbers weren't flashy enough to push him into the top tier. When the votes came in, the message was clear. LeBron had won back the media, and more importantly, he'd won back the respect. He got 85 of 121 first-place votes, with Durant taking 24, Chris Paul 6, Tony Parker 4, and Kobe taking 2. It was LeBron's third MVP in 4 seasons, but this one felt different. Not just because he won, but because of how he won. No drama, no distractions, just complete, dominant, unselfish basketball. He wasn't trying to prove anyone wrong. He was finally playing like a man with nothing left to prove. By 2013, the MVP conversation wasn't just about LeBron James anymore. It was about whether we were watching the peak of one of the greatest players ever. LeBron wasn't just dominating, he was rewriting the rules of efficiency. The Miami Heat weren't just winning, they were steamrolling the league, and for most of the year, the MVP race felt like a formality. But let's rewind and set the table, because 2013 still had a few plot twists. MVP voting was still the same, 121 ballots, 120 from the media, and 1 from a fan vote, each ranking 5 players. First place got 10 points, second 7, and so on. Regular season only. Playoffs? Irrelevant. Now here's what LeBron did before the ballots went in. He led the Heat to a 66-16 record, including a legendary 27-game winning streak, the second longest in NBA history. He averaged 26.8 points, 8 rebounds, and 7.3 assists per game on an absurd 56.5% shooting, the highest field goal percentage ever for a perimeter player averaging over 25 a game. He also shot 40.6% from 3, grabbed a steal a game, and once again defended every position. And here's the kicker. LeBron almost became the first player in league history to receive every single first-place MVP vote. Almost. But not quite. We'll get to that in a second. Kevin Durant made sure it wasn't a unanimous coronation. He averaged 28.1 points, 7.9 rebounds, and 4.6 assists, led the league in free throw percentage at 90.5%, and shot a blistering 51-41-91 split on the season, nearly a member of the ultra-rare 50-40-90 club while averaging over 28 a game. The Thunder finished 60-22 even after trading away James Harden before the season started. Durant had a real case, but he was chasing a version of LeBron that was unbeatable. There was also Carmelo Anthony, who made a late push. He led the league in scoring at 28.7 points per game and led the Knicks to 54 wins, their best record in over a decade, and that helped secure the number 2 seed in the East. For about 2 weeks in April, people actually debated whether Melo had stolen the award. But let's be honest, he hadn't. Not when you looked under the hood. LeBron had the highest PER, the most win shares, the best BPM, and the top value over replacement player. He was top 5 in literally every advanced stat that measures impact. The Heat were the most efficient offense in the league, the best team in the league, and LeBron was the most efficient superstar the NBA had seen in years, maybe ever. So when the votes came in, it was a blowout. LeBron received 120 out of 121 first-place votes. The one voter who didn't pick him gave it to Carmelo Anthony. It of course didn't change the result, but it definitely made headlines as many thought this was LeBron's opportunity to be the first unanimous MVP in league history. It was LeBron's 4th MVP in 5 years, and honestly, it might have been his best, because in 2013 there was no weakness in his game, no real challenger, no crack in the armor. He was at the absolute peak of his powers, and for that one season there wasn't a single person on the planet who could touch him. By 2014, it finally happened. After years of coming in second, after playing sidekick to LeBron in the MVP conversation, after always being the runner-up, the quiet scorer, the silver medal, Kevin Durant finally got his gold. But the story of the 2014 MVP race wasn't just LeBron versus KD. It was how Durant took the title, and the circumstances that forced him to reach a whole new level. Let's break it down. The season started with the Oklahoma City Thunder dealing with a huge blow. Russell Westbrook went down with multiple knee procedures and missed nearly half the season. Suddenly, Durant wasn't part of a duo anymore. He was the solo act. And he responded by putting together one of the most ridiculously complete scoring seasons in modern NBA history. 32 points per game, the highest average of his career, 7.4 rebounds, 5.5 assists, 1.3 steals, on 50.3% from the field, 39.1% from 3, and 87.3% from the line. A 63.5 true shooting percentage on high volume. Led the league in PER and win shares, and the Thunder still won 59 games, finishing second in the West. And if the numbers weren't enough, Durant passed the eye test with flying colors. He had a legendary stretch from January to early March where he scored 25-plus points in 41 straight games, the third longest streak in NBA history, only behind Michael Jordan and Wilt Chamberlain. He wasn't just scoring, he was carrying. He was doing everything. Meanwhile, LeBron James was still LeBron James. In his final season with the Miami Heat, LeBron averaged 27.1 points, 6.9 rebounds, 6.3 assists on a career-best 56.7% shooting. He dropped 61 points in a game against Charlotte. The Heat still won 54 games, finishing second in the East. But while LeBron was great, Durant was inevitable. For the first time in years, LeBron wasn't the consensus best player in the league. He was more efficient, sure, but he wasn't as dominant on a night-to-night basis. He had more help, and he didn't carry the same narrative. Durant had the story. Durant had the numbers. Durant had the moment. Other candidates not really in the conversation. Blake Griffin stepped up huge when Chris Paul missed time, leading the Clippers to 57 wins and averaging 24-10. But his stats couldn't match KD or LeBron. Joakim Noah had one of the most unique MVP cases in recent memory. He was the heart of a Bulls team decimated by injuries, averaging 12.6 points, 11.3 rebounds, 5.4 assists, and winning Defensive Player of the Year. But he was more of a symbolic candidate than a serious threat. James Harden, Steph Curry, and Paul George all had strong seasons too, but none with the dominance or storyline needed to unseat the top two. When the votes came in, it was a blowout. Kevin Durant received 119 of 125 first-place votes. LeBron got 6. Everyone else, 0. But then came the moment that sealed it. During his MVP acceptance speech, Durant broke down in tears, thanked his mom, thanked his teammates, and gave one of the most heartfelt speeches the NBA has ever seen. "You're the real MVP." It wasn't just a soundbite, it was the soundbite. It went viral, it became a meme, it became a mantra. But beyond the speech, there was no denying what KD had done. He had carried a team, he had quieted the doubters, and he had finally stepped out of LeBron's shadow. 2014 wasn't just Durant's MVP season, it was the year he truly became the Slim Reaper. The 2015 MVP race wasn't just about who played the best basketball. It was about who changed the entire way we think about the game. Because in 2015, Steph Curry didn't just have a breakout season, he broke basketball. Let's walk it back. At the start of the season, the Golden State Warriors weren't anyone's title favorite. They were talented, sure, but they had a rookie head coach in Steve Kerr, a roster filled with question marks, and a track record of early playoff exits. But from the moment the season tipped, everything clicked. The Warriors opened the year 21-2. They had the best offense in the league, the best defense in the league. They were blowing teams out nightly and doing it with a style nobody had seen before. And at the center of all of it, Steph Curry. He averaged 23.8 points, 7.7 assists, 4.3 rebounds, and 2 steals per game. He shot 48.7% from the field, 44.3% from 3, and 91.4% from the free throw line, just shy of the 50-40-90 club. And he made an NBA record 286 three-pointers, shattering his own previous record and doing it while barely playing fourth quarters because the Warriors were up by 25 every night. Now on paper, those numbers might not look as dominant as other MVP years, but this wasn't just about raw stats. This was about Steph's impact on the floor, on defenses, on the entire league. For the first time in NBA history, teams were picking up a point guard at half court and still couldn't do anything to stop him. He completely broke defensive coverages, he redefined what a good shot was, and he led the Warriors to a 67-15 record, the best in the league. But there were challengers. James Harden had an incredible season in Houston. He averaged 27.4 points, 7 assists, 5.7 rebounds, and led the league in free throws. With Dwight Howard injured for most of the year, Harden carried the Rockets to 56 wins and the 2 seed in the West. To many, he was the most valuable individual force in the league. He finished second in PER and first in offensive win shares. Then there was LeBron James, now back in Cleveland. He averaged 25.3 points, 7.4 assists, and 6 rebounds per game. And the Cavs won 53 games despite major roster changes and early season drama. But LeBron missed 13 games, paced himself for the playoffs, and didn't bring the same nightly urgency. He was still the best player in the world, but not the MVP. Other names like Anthony Davis, Chris Paul, and Russell Westbrook all had eye-popping stat seasons, but none had the team success or narrative strength to break into the top 2. When the votes were counted, the revolution was official. Steph Curry received 100 of 130 first-place votes. Harden got 25. LeBron, 5. It was the first MVP for Curry, and the Warriors' first since Wilt Chamberlain in 1960. But more than that, it was the start of a new era. The era of pace and space, of pull-up threes in transition, of gravity as a weapon. Steph didn't win MVP because he was the biggest or the strongest, he won because he changed everything. And in 2015, the league was officially put on notice. The splash era had begun. By 2016, Steph Curry wasn't just a superstar, he was a movement. He had already won MVP the year before. He had already led the Warriors to a championship. But nobody, and I mean nobody, expected what came next. Because in 2016, Steph Curry didn't just go up a level, he skipped tiers entirely. Let's talk about what made that season different. The Golden State Warriors came into the year riding the high of their first title in 40 years. Most expected a regression, maybe 60 wins, maybe a 2-seed, maybe someone else takes the spotlight. Instead, they went 73-9, the best regular season record in NBA history. They broke the '96 Bulls record, and they did it with a team built around movement, defense, unselfishness, and one guy pulling up from 35 feet like it was a layup. Steph Curry had the single most efficient volume scoring season in league history. He averaged 30.1 points, 6.7 assists, 5.4 rebounds, and 2.1 steals per game, on 50.4% from the field, 45.4% from three, and 90.8% from the line. That's a 50-45-90 season, while leading the league in scoring. He made 402 three-pointers, a record that still hasn't been broken, and he led the league in per, win shares, box plus minus, offensive rating, true shooting percentage, and every single advanced metric that matters. Oh, and he did all of that while sitting out fourth quarters for blowouts. Curry became the only player in NBA history to average over 30 points per game while playing less than 35 minutes per night. At one point, he made 12 threes in a game against OKC, including the famous walk-up dagger from 38 feet to win it in overtime. He wasn't just having a good season, he was having a season that broke every known rule about basketball efficiency. But was it a runaway? Yes, but that doesn't mean there weren't other great seasons happening. Kawhi Leonard led the Spurs to a 67-15 record and had the best defensive impact in the league. He averaged 21.2 points, shot 44% from three, and was the clear two-way monster on an all-time defense. But he wasn't the engine. He wasn't revolutionary. LeBron James still averaged 25.3 points, 7.4 rebounds, and 6.8 assists, and led the Cavs to 57 wins. But he missed 6 games, paced himself for the playoffs, and didn't chase stats. Voters had seen this version of LeBron before, and that's what made it less compelling. Russell Westbrook put up 23.5 points, 10.4 assists, and 7.8 rebounds, and led the NBA in triple-doubles. Kevin Durant was back to averaging 28 points per game efficiently. Chris Paul was masterful for the Clippers again, but none of it mattered. Not this year. When the ballots were counted, it was historic. Steph Curry received all 131 first-place votes, the first unanimous MVP in NBA history. Think about that. Michael Jordan was never unanimous. LeBron and Shaq missed it by 1 vote. But Steph Curry, the 6'2" skinny kid out of Davidson, unanimous. And here's the kicker. He didn't even get to accept the award at the finals, because after going 73-9, after being crowned the greatest regular season team of all time, the Warriors blew a 3-1 lead in the finals to LeBron and the Cavs. It didn't erase the MVP, it didn't rewrite history, but it added a twist, because 2016 was the highest high and the lowest low in Steph Curry's career. And even if the year didn't end in a ring, that regular season was perfect. The 2017 MVP race wasn't just close, it was chaos. Narratives were colliding, stats were exploding, and for the first time in years, the MVP didn't go to the best player on the best team. It went to the guy who did everything. Let's rewind. Just before the season started, Kevin Durant shocked the basketball world by signing with the Golden State Warriors, leaving Russell Westbrook, his longtime teammate, in Oklahoma City, alone. And in the wake of that breakup, something snapped in Russ. He turned into a one-man wrecking crew, a walking explosion of speed, anger, and triple-doubles, and he chased history. By the end of the year, Russell Westbrook had averaged 31.6 points, 10.7 rebounds, and 10.4 assists per game, becoming the first player since Oscar Robertson in 1962 to average a triple-double for an entire season. He also led the league in per, usage rate, and clutch scoring, and broke the single-season record for triple-doubles with 42. Every night felt like theater. Game winners, 3 50-point triple-doubles, revenge games against KD, monster fourth quarters, and somehow he dragged that OKC roster, one of the worst supporting casts in the league, to 47 wins and the 6th seed in the West. But here's the thing. Not everyone thought he should win MVP, because the numbers were wild, but the race was stacked. James Harden had just switched full-time to point guard under Mike D'Antoni and unleashed the most efficient offense in the league. He averaged 29.1 points, 11.2 assists, and 8.1 rebounds, led the NBA in total assists and points produced, and carried Houston to 55 wins and the 3 seed, 8 games ahead of OKC. Statistically, Harden had the edge in efficiency. Team-wise, he had the wins. And Harden had 22 triple-doubles of his own. Then there was Kawhi Leonard, who quietly had the best all-around season of his career. He averaged 25.5 points, played elite defense, hit multiple clutch shots down the stretch, and led the Spurs to 61 wins, second best in the NBA. If you wanted to reward winning, two-way impact, and consistency, Kawhi had a real case. Even LeBron James put up 26.4 points, 8.7 assists, and 8.6 rebounds, and played all but 8 games. He coasted defensively, sure, but the Cavs were still a top team. It's just, he had set the bar so high that this season didn't feel special enough for MVP voters. And Kevin Durant, well, he was phenomenal. 25.1 points, 8.3 rebounds, 4.8 assists on 53, 37, 87 shooting. But he missed 20 games and split votes with Steph Curry on a 67-win Warriors team. No one knew who the real MVP was in Golden State. So for the first time in years, the award didn't go to the most efficient player, the best team, or the cleanest narrative. It went to the most jaw-dropping season in recent memory. Russell Westbrook won MVP. He received 69 of 101 first-place votes, beating Harden, Kawhi, and LeBron. It was one of the closest MVP races of the decade, and it was the first time since 1981 that the MVP came from a team lower than the 3 seed. Some analysts said it was emotional voting. Some just said he was stat padding. Some argued Harden was more efficient and more valuable. But here's what voters did see. A man who got left behind, then went out and made NBA history on his own. In 2017, Westbrook didn't just win MVP, he turned revenge into a legacy. For years, James Harden was almost MVP. In 2015, he finished second to Steph Curry. In 2017, he finished second to Russell Westbrook, after leading the league in assists and dragging Houston to 55 wins. He kept putting up historic numbers, but he kept watching someone else hoist the trophy. Until 2018. This time, there was no doubt, no controversy, no debate, because in 2018, James Harden left zero room for discussion. Let's set the scene. The Houston Rockets made one big move in the offseason. They added Chris Paul, a veteran floor general who many thought would eat into Harden's touches. Some said it wouldn't work, too ball dominant, too much overlap. Instead, it was the perfect pairing. Chris Paul handled the mid-range. Harden handled everything else. The Rockets won 65 games, the best record in the NBA. They finished first in offensive rating, and they were the only team that made the Warriors look mortal. But most importantly, James Harden was unstoppable. He averaged 30.4 points, 8.8 assists, and 5.4 rebounds per game on 44.9% from the field, 36.7% from 3, and 85.8% from the line. Led the league in scoring, win shares, and offensive box plus minus, and led the NBA in per. And the way he did it? pure manipulation. Step-back threes, ISO drives, free throws, Euro steps, and the kind of deliberate, efficient offense that made defenses look helpless and opposing fans furious. Harden drew a ton of hate that year. People complained about his style, the flopping, the foul baiting, the slow-motion step-backs. But the results were undeniable. Now, there were other great seasons, no question. LeBron James had a monster year. In year 15, yes, year 15, he played all 82 games for the first time in his career, averaged 27.5 points, 9.1 assists, and 8.6 rebounds, and carried a Cavs team that blew up its entire roster mid-season into the 4 seed. LeBron was everywhere, statistically, emotionally, narratively. But the Cavs only won 50 games, and voters had already seen peak LeBron. Harden had the edge, in wins, in stats, and in story. Anthony Davis also made a push after DeMarcus Cousins went down. He averaged 28.1 points, 11.1 rebounds, 2.6 blocks, and dragged the Pelicans to 48 wins. He finished first in PER, led the league in blocks, and had the best two-way case of the year. Damian Lillard got some love for leading Portland to the 3 seed, and Giannis Antetokounmpo was rising, but neither had the wins or stat dominance yet. So when the votes came in, there was no suspense. James Harden finally won MVP. He received 86 of 101 first-place votes, beating LeBron, AD, and Dame with room to spare. For Harden, it wasn't just validation, it was vindication. He put together a complete season, and the league finally gave him the crown. It wasn't the flashiest MVP season, it didn't come with the highest scoring average, the most triple-doubles, or the wildest highlights, but it was dominance, pure and calculated. And for the first time in his career, James Harden was undeniably, unquestionably, the most valuable player. The 2019 MVP race wasn't just a battle between two superstars. It was a philosophical war. Efficiency versus volume, team success versus individual brilliance, the emerging face of the NBA versus the man with the biggest offensive bag on the planet. And at the center of it all, a 24-year-old from Athens, Greece, with arms like pterodactyl wings and a motor that never stopped. Giannis Antetokounmpo didn't just become MVP in 2019, he announced his takeover. Let's back it up. The Milwaukee Bucks weren't supposed to be this good. They'd been a middling playoff team for years, fun but flawed. Then Mike Budenholzer took over as head coach, spread the floor with shooters, gave Giannis full control, and the results were instant. Milwaukee finished 60-22, the best record in the NBA. They had the number 1 defense, the number 1 net rating, and Giannis was the driving force on both ends. He averaged 27.7 points, 12.5 rebounds, 5.9 assists, 1.5 blocks, and 1.3 steals on 57.8% shooting from the field with a league-leading 30.9 PER, the best defensive box plus-minus, and the most win shares per 48, all while playing just 32.8 minutes per game. That's the crazy part. He was dominating games while barely cracking 33 minutes. Giannis wasn't just the MVP on the stat sheet. He looked like the MVP every single night. Chase down blocks, transition dunks from the three-point line, Euro steps covering half the court. He was a cheat code on both ends. But this wasn't a walkover, because James Harden came back with one of the most absurd scoring seasons of the modern era. After winning MVP the year before, Harden somehow leveled up. He averaged 36.1 points per game, the highest since Michael Jordan in 1987, along with 7.5 assists, 6.6 rebounds, and 2 steals on 44.2% from the field, 36.8% from 3, and a ridiculous 13.2 free throw attempts per game. He dropped 32 straight 30-point games, 9 50-point games, and even a 61-point game. Twice. And he did all of this while Chris Paul missed time, Clint Capella missed time, and the Rockets were juggling G League guys in the rotation. Houston won 53 games. Solid, but 7 fewer than Milwaukee. And that's where the debate got heated. Harden had the eye-popping stats. Giannis had the team dominance. Harden had the offensive load of a lifetime. Giannis had two-way impact and elite efficiency. Harden was carrying, but Giannis was elevating. Even the advanced stats couldn't agree. Harden led the league in offensive win shares, offensive BPM, usage, and box creation. Giannis led in defensive win shares, total win shares, value over replacement player, and per. So when the ballots came in, the voters had a choice. Reward the wildest scoring season since Jordan, or crown the league's most dominant two-way force on the best team. They chose the latter. Giannis Antetokounmpo won MVP, receiving 78 of 101 first-place votes. Harden got 23. When Giannis gave his MVP speech, he broke down in tears. He thanked his late father. He talked about his journey from selling sunglasses on the streets of Athens to standing atop the NBA. "This is just the beginning. My goal is to win a championship. I will do whatever it takes." And while the playoffs would bring heartbreak, there was no doubt about the regular season. 2019 wasn't just the year Giannis won MVP. It was the year the world realized he's coming for everything. The 2010s gave us more than just basketball. They gave us stories. Every MVP told one. LeBron reminded us what greatness looks like and how pressure either breaks you or builds you. Derrick Rose made us believe in magic, even if it only lasted for a moment. Kevin Durant proved you could dominate your way out of second place. Steph Curry, he didn't just change the league, he reprogrammed it with a smile, a shimmy, and 30-foot daggers. Then came the fury of Westbrook, the redemption of Harden, and the rise of a Greek giant who made us all rethink what's physically possible. But these MVPs weren't just trophies. They were turning points, moments where history shifted, narratives were rewritten, and the game evolved. They sparked debates, fights, documentaries. They shaped legacies and shattered expectations. Because in the 2010s, the MVP wasn't just about stats. It was about impact. And decade after decade, season after season, that award reminds us this game isn't just about who scores the most. It's about who defines the era. If you made it this far, you're clearly a real one. So drop your favorite MVP season in the comments. Was it Steph going unanimous, Russ rewriting the record books, or D-Rose becoming the youngest ever? And if you want more videos that actually remember what made the NBA so special, you know exactly what to do. Smash that like button, hit subscribe, and turn on those post notifications. We've got more legends, more debates, and more chaos on the way. We'll see you in the next one.